Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and after the abysmal episode that was The Power of the Doctor, fans and audience members were focused solely upon the return of David Tennant, rightfully so. The Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who had just so debased the franchise and mocked the fans that nobody cared about the actual events of that episode. I have some major issues with it, but the primary thing to take away from that episode was the return of David Tennant. And an interesting question that was derived from that regeneration scene is why her clothes regenerated into his new outfit. Now, there is some debate amongst the fans. It did happen occasionally back in Classic Who, the costumes changing. That's not the issue in and of itself. It's just a funny thing to happen since New Who has established that the clothes don't change, and it's for a comedic effect to have the new Doctor traipsing around in their first episode in the previous Doctor's outfit. And a lot of people questioned the reason behind this costume change, and it was quite a odd way to visually portray it as well. The visual effects of it seeing it burning away into the new one is unique. Even of the classic Doctors who outfit changed with the regeneration, none of them featured it in such a prominent and easy to see fashion. It was just a weird situation, and a lot of speculation came out of that moment, and a lot of people believed it was because of, you don't want to see David Tennant running around in that god-awful costume. But Russell T Davies has come out to announce and to reveal why David Tennant did not regenerate into Jodie Whittaker's terrible costume. Now, this interview comes from a Doctor Who magazine where Russell T Davies had some interesting comments. Partially, one of the bigger comments that he had was that he actually was the one who approached the BBC. It wasn't them who came begging for him to come back and save the franchise. He went to them with the idea for a Catherine Tate, Donna Noble spin-off or like a mini-series to fill in the gaps with the Doctor. And when he did, they kind of said, hey, why don't you come back permanently? And that's kind of how this all came from. It was originally just a mini-series of the Doctor and Donna's reunion. And I think that would actually be better than what is currently happening. I think a lot more people would be interested in seeing the 10th Doctor return rather than the 14th. And then there's a whole thing about undoing Donna's great ending. So I'm very, very concerned about the future of Doctor Who. But it is interesting to see how his return to Doctor Who began. But the more important comments came from his interview here when he was asked about the costume change in the regeneration. I was very certain that I didn't want David to appear in Jodie's costume. We were all pretty much on board with that. We did not want to see that awful, awful costume on the great David Tennant. I think the notion of men dressing in women's clothing, the notion of drag, is very delicate. They did it to avoid concept of drag. I love it. I love it. If he were not a gay man, he would be getting canceled over saying stuff like this. But I love it. This is hilarious. I'm a huge fan of what culture and that dignity of it. It's truly a valuable thing, but it has to be done with immense thought and respect. He's covering his ass a little bit here, but at the end of the day, he did it because he didn't want any drag comparisons to be made. As much as he's going to say, hey, I just respect it, I'm not the man to do it, still, if he were any other man, if he had any other identity, Twitter would be going after him for these comments. It's like, oh, you don't want to portray drag on screen? Are you some sort of bigot? I think this is just hilarious. Apathy is very much set in to a certain extent. I'm still going to check in the new episodes, but at this point, they can really do anything, and I'm just going to sit back and laugh at how stupid it is. I'm starting to get blackpilled on Doctor Who, not going to lie, even with the return of David Tennant, Russell T Davies. So I'm just sitting back and laugh. I wish the woke were eating its own at this point, but it's still quite entertaining nonetheless. With respect to Jodie and her Doctor, I think it can look like mockery when a straight man wears her clothes. I think it's a mockery when anyone wears that god-awful costume. Whether or not you're straight, gay, man or woman or anything else, that costume is just frumpy and weird and pride flag across the front. Like, yeah, it's mockery whoever wore it. So that was an interesting thing to add in there. To put a great big 6-foot Scotsman into them looks like we're taking the mickey. Not necessarily. I mean, some people might have laughed at seeing him in that costume, but I don't think anyone would have assumed it was mockery, mainly because that's what the established canon is. So I feel like this is, again, more covering his ass out of saying, I don't want a drag connotation. It's just really funny to see that coming from the woke and perfect Russell T Davies. Now, a lot of people did twist this in the access and mainstream media, and so they're not doing woke on woke crime. They're actually defending the fact that he specifically wanted to exclude, using their mentality, drag from Doctor Who. This comes from the pillar of journalism that is Gizmodo, and they're saying that they did it to not give bigots ammo. That's not what he just said there. That is not what he said. As much as I'm reading into a little bit of what he actually meant in the situation, I admit that. But he straight up just says, hey, the notion of drag, it's very delicate. I'm not the man to do it. That is at front face value what he said. He did not say anything about giving bigots ammunition. What the hell? This is so stupid. Gizmodo is making a toxic fan narrative out of nothing, like the access and mainstream medias always do in a situation like this. But we'll have to see how this transpires. This is only a few days old at this point, so we'll see if a few more bigger publications pick up on this interview and this comment, and whether or not they kind of take the Gizmodo anti-fan perspective, or they're just not going to say much about it because of Russell T Davies' sexuality. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it develops. I want to see what happens. I'm very much not making a statement one way or another. I tend to personally go a little bit more nihilism when it comes to the future of Doctor Who, but there is always a chance, a small chance. If they retcon the Timeless Children right away, they have a shot. They have a shot at redeeming this franchise, but with every interview, every statement like this hilarity, we get further and further from any chance of its redemption. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.